that, even though we were continuing the fourth season. And we were quite surprised actually that we did not continue, because it was an uphill battle in the beginning with the second and third season, we knew that. But after that, we thought it was a home run. Now it's all good. So it was quite surprising to us that they took it off.
And I mean, now there is no fourth season. For a while there was talk that it would go to Netflix or even Amazon. Someone would pick it up, but the cast has been let go now?
Yeah, I mean, for now. I mean, it's not going to happen this season. They're still working on something, and I'm sure if it does happen, we will all be very, very happy to come back and do a fourth season. And thank you to all the Hannibals who've been pushing very hard on the internet. So we would embrace that, obviously, but right now we are unemployed.
How about at least, you know, I think maybe at least a TV movie to wrap it up. You know, a good finale movie.
And I read an interview with Brian Fuller actually just this morning where he said, don't count everybody out yet.
No. And you shouldn't. After all, it's Brian Fuller. I mean, look at the stuff he's writing. If he can't pull this off, nobody can.
That is so true. Let's get an audience question going on here.
Hi there.
Hi.
I was just curious, how do you play such charismatic villain characters? Because I find I'm always kind of rooting for you, even if you're doing really bad things. And also, my sister can't be here because she lives in Malaysia. I was just wondering if you could preface your answer by saying hi to Hannah.
Hi, Hannah. Why is she? Well, I think the secret is playing it sexy. I think that the way it's been written, especially Hannibal, it is a very charismatic character. It was when Anthony Hopkins played him and Brian Cox did as well. There's always something very fascinating about the other side of the coin. I mean, 2 minutes after we invented God, we invented Satan, right? We like that part, you know, we like that story. It's fascinating, thrilling, and to a degree sexy.
Is it the accent?
It is the accent.
You know, I've always wanted to know if American actors are on TV in Europe playing evil characters and people go, that accent is sexy?
Yeah. Well, I think they find French and Spanish accents more sexy, but they have to live with this Danish-German thingy. Lithuanian, sorry.
In German movies, would like Billy Ray Cyrus have a sexy accent?
Well, I mean, we've seen a few cliches of the, you know, the Nazi smoking with this finger. Right? At base of making the song. Of course, we're trying to avoid that.
Oh, but let's not discount the face and the bod, right? Also works.
Hello, Matt.
Hi.
So, something I love about Hannibal, I'm sure we all do, the way that it's shot, just the people involved, I can't help but see those characters, and even in seeing yourself right now, it's somewhat terrifying. But I love that, so I'm watching this show with all these other actors that only after the fact I realized, like, oh my god, that was Eddie Izzard. And so my question, and I understand you have a good relationship with Eddie Izzard, are you familiar with his comedy?
Was that Eddie Izzard? Yeah, I was familiar with his comedy. Yeah.
No. So my question, my request of you, would you be able to, in sort of the role of Hannibal, in that dinner scene when you were having with him, would you be able? Do you know the offer that he in his I think it's the Church of England sketch where he offers cake or death? I was wondering if you could offer Dr. Chilton that choice.
I have not seen that sketch. I'm sure it would have been a hard time for me to go through the scene with him, with knowing that I was a sketch like that. But it was, I think it was a fantastic choice to pick Eddie Izzard to play that character. He is a really, really good actor besides being a great comedian. And he's so calm, he's never getting nervous even though he's doing stuff he's never done before. So he's a very fascinating man to work with. And I know that he's doing his show now in 5 different languages. So it was very, very fantastic to meet this guy.
It's also, you know, it's interesting too that in this last season, Mason Berger basically became, in some ways, a more horrifying character. And so it's like a little flip where Hannibal's still the bad guy, but we're also like, okay, but kill that worst guy.
I think that has been the case in general, especially the first season. You always had another killer that would kill with bees or shove people inside a horse's stomach. And for that reason, all of a sudden, we started to relax with Hannibal. At least he's just eating people.
I think there's something to be said about not just the Hannibal Lecter character, but I think audiences, especially this audience, loves a villain you can root for. Loves the bad guy that is also the protagonist. And that's rare. So when you get that, especially this audience, likes to have that, likes to have the villain that you cheer.
Yeah, I think it's always been the case with interesting villains that you can actually root for them. In this case, obviously, it's called Hannibal. If we hated the character, it's going to be 3 long seasons, right? But it's a love-hate relationship because we're rooting for Will as well. And we're seeing me pulling the strings and making the guy more and more crazy, which we hate, but we find it fascinating.
Hello, Mr. Mikkelsen. It's a pleasure to see you again. My question for you is, knowing Hopkins' performance, how did you frame your performance of Hannibal in order for it to be in character, but at the same time unique?
Well, as we mentioned before, I think that Anthony Hopkins had about 15 minutes of screen time, and he made such a fantastic impact on the audience, right? We have hour after hour. So we have to dose it a little different. We have to, hold back with certain things and let the story evolve. For me, it's all about the scripts and figure out where does the writer want to go. It was a slow-paced thing, but I also knew that we will eventually see Hannibal in action. So I had to be patient and just wait for it, and the audience were patient enough to wait.
What is your process as an actor? Because this is, you film a season, and then you have time off, and then you come back to the character. Are you method at all? Do you live with the character, or how do you refine it every season? Like, don't kill people. Someone just said, please don't eat people.
Yeah, my family loves that I bring him home every day. No, I mean, I'm one of these guys that find the method acting to be a very pretentious thing, in the sense that I don't care how you do it, make it work. You can find fantastic method actors, and you can find crap method actors, and you can find actors who do it differently, right? For me, it's very important to get into the character really fast, and leave it really fast as well. So what you do carry back home is kind of, how did the day go? Was it a good day? Was it a bad day? Like everybody else do when they come home from work. I try not to carry the character. I mean, that would be some fucked up everything.
Greetings, Matt. Thank you for coming to the show. Given that you've had 3 seasons to get into the mind, the character of Hannibal, moving forward, fast-forwarding to Hannibal's eventual demise, do you, in your opinion, do you envision it being one of a design of his own making, or given the life that he's led, do you think that he wouldn't have a choice in the undignified ending?
I think that Hannibal himself does not have a master plan for life itself. He does not have a master plan with what he wants to do with Will's character. He is being inspired by what happens every day, and he can definitely change his path. But I mean, he has a philosophy of life, as I said before. Life cannot be boring. It has to be very interesting every single second. And for that reason, I think that meeting Will Graham was a surprise to him, and I think it surprised him how big an impact Will had on Hannibal. So he took a couple of detours. He had one plan, that was making a family with Will and Abigail. That went down the drain, and now he has a second plan, just to get close to Will again and play with him.
The relationship between Hannibal and Will Graham was, again, another one that was very sensual and finally addressed in this season, where, Will finally realizes Hannibal's in love with him and vice versa, in a sense, right? Because it was. Was that something that, like, when you guys first started shooting, was the relationship between them and sort of the way it played out, was that the plan from the beginning, or did it sort of through performances grow into that?
I believe it was the plan from the beginning, and I think that for Hannibal it was love at first sight. In the sense, obviously, it's not that kind of love. But anyway, I mean, any kind of love from Hannibal would be weird. But I mean, he found that young man so fascinating, and he knew right there that he had a future with him somehow. How it's going to end, he had no idea. Obviously, Will Graham had no idea what was hitting him. And he grew on it as well. Hannibal was growing on Will as well. But that was the plan from the beginning from Brian Fuller, I'm sure. He called it the bromance from the very beginning, whatever that means.
You know, a lot has been said about the visual aspects of the show, the visual effects or the cinematography. What was it like working with such talented makeup artists? Because a lot of the effects on Hannibal are practical, and they're practical makeup effects. What was it like working with that and working opposite that?
Well, it was super fascinating in the sense, obviously, that it was rare that we looked in a strange way, but they had to make special corpses or plateaus of people being eaten. So sometimes we didn't see it until we actually saw the episodes ourselves, right? And I must admit, I was really surprised with the level of grace that was on the show, because you can't always feel that when you're standing in the midst of it. But obviously we knew when we saw the sets how beautiful that was. But when they add some visual effects in the end, it becomes a completely different story.
I got to be on set for one of the episodes that took place in the lab, the morgue lab. And what I found fascinating was that a lot of the bodies that the FBI were walking around and looking at, some of them were completely fake, and then some were actors holding their breath for minutes at a time.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell the difference. There would be a person next to a mannequin.
It's actually cheaper to get a real actor to do that. No, I mean, obviously, if you go really close on a body with the camera, you need real people to lie there. I mean, for obvious reasons, even though some of the dolls are fantastic. I mean, they look spectacular. But they're also very macabre to look at, so we had quite a few jokes in that morgue.
Hi, Matt. I just want to say, first of all, this is going to be a Casino Royale question out of Hannibal, so sorry.
Out!
I just want to say I'm a huge fan. My father and I, we watch it all the time. Like, I love this movie. My question is, throughout the whole film, when you and Daniel Craig acted, like when you guys like face to face, especially close to the end with the interrogation scene, I'm not going to go into detail, but were you guys, like when you saw each other, were you ever like cracked up? Were you ever like not in character? Did you kind of like see each other and then like, oh crap, like, did you ever get out of character, like bloopers or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it does happen once in a while, but I mean, in the situation where Daniel Craig is stripped naked to a chair, I torture his beloved parts. It wasn't that funny for him. I had a great time. The scene was shot in a way that there was a false button on the chair was made of plastic, but after a couple of blows it broke. And I think it's actually in the film you can hear a scream that is slightly different. And then there was another problem. I had only one eye, so I kind of lost my depth perception, and he didn't like that either. But no, I don't think we cracked up laughing. I mean, there's nothing to laugh about. He takes $150 million from me. That was a sad story.
Is there a big difference between, you know, the choreography you had to learn for Casino Royale and the choreography you had to go through week after week on Hannibal? Because you do have some fight scenes in Hannibal.
Yeah, I mean, the fight scenes, It takes a while to learn it, and I had one big one in the second season with Lawrence Fishburne, and he is, I can tell you, let you in on a secret, he's big, but he's not slow, and he's pretty strong, and I thought he was an old fart. But I gotta tell you, I had to wake up early to be part of that show there. He was so good at it, and so I think we rehearsed for 3 weeks or something, off and on, to get the whole thing down, and then we shot the whole thing in 16 hours. And I think there's only once or twice there's a double in there, a stunt double who's doing something. The rest we did. So we felt extremely powerful and young when we did it, and the day after we were much older.
There's I mean, everyone on the show is so good, and so good at playing the relationships between the characters. What was the atmosphere like on set? Because you have your character has such an awkward relationship with so many of these people. Were you, and some actors are method and some aren't. Was it, all buddies on set, or were there times where people were like, okay, I can't talk to you today?
Yeah, I mean, it does happen, and I gotta tell you a secret, the method thing is not that interesting. Method is like, try to drink this 50 times the same way and think about the same thing every time. It's really boring. So the whole thing about gaining weight or, being a butcher for 3 years because you have to play a butcher, it's a different thing. It's just research, right? And you can do that in different scales. So we all need to be private once in a while by ourselves if there's a certain scene coming up. And sometimes we don't need to, then we can chit-chat and crack jokes. But it's often in the most bizarre situations where we're having fun. And because it's just so horrific what happens, so we've got to laugh a little. Did I answer the question?
You nailed it.
I have a question about season 3, episode 12, when you eat Frederick Chilton's lip. I was just wondering, what was that like to read on the script and to film? Like, what was your reaction?
Actually, that was not in the script. It was something they came up with in the last second, and I was all confused because what's happening, what lip? And then they added that story. And it was kind of gross. And the thing is that we did it with a prosthetic thing that's made out of, I don't know, some artificial fabric. So I had to obviously swallow it, but not really swallowing, and that was super tricky because it was sticky, so I had to do it with a certain amount of force. At the same time, I had to close my throat so it didn't go all the way down. So we only did it a couple of times, and then I kind of half swallowed it and whiffed it. But I think that thinking about it, I think it was well deserved. Children had the fate coming, right?
I should point out, by the way, if you're a fan of the makeup effects and a lot of the gore and special effects in Hannibal and in other movies, it's been added to Fan Expo tomorrow, 2:45 p.m. in the South Tower, room 716. Fake blood, real sweat, and lots of tears. It's a Q&A panel with several of the top Canadian makeup artists and some who worked on Hannibal as well will be there.
Fantastic. Yeah. And you have to go and watch it. What they can do is, they do miracles. They're just absolutely fantastic.
When you get all that fake blood, so I'm going to assume it's fake, on your skin and in your hair and stuff, does that just, you shower, it's gone, or is it residue for a bit?
It depends on what kind of blood. They use different blood for different situations, right? A lot of the blood has sugar in it, and so if you are filming in the summertime outdoor, you're the guy with all the bees on you. And the thing is that you can't clean it off because we're going to shoot it for 3 hours, and everybody's standing 15 yards away from you talking to you, right? Because you're just a bee man. But I mean, some of the blood is not nice to get in the eyes, and some is fine, and some of it tastes real good. And that's the one that the bees like as well.
Hi, I was wondering, what are some of your best experiences that you had on or off screen on the Hannibal set?
Rephrase that. What is what, sorry?
Some of your best experiences that you had on or off screen on set.
I think that the answer will be quite boring in the sense that I'm going to say something heartfelt, which is meeting all the fantastic actors and the fantastic crew. When you're a regular on a TV show, you get the chance to meet all these people who are visiting. And the amount of talent I've seen on the show has been enormous, and fantastic people on top of it. So I think that has been the best experience, and that goes for directors as well, and people working in the crew. But in terms of what scenes, I've enjoyed tremendously having all the scenes with Judy Dancy, the very intimate scenes. It's been super, super cool for both of us. And I enjoyed my scenes with Gillian Anderson. But with everyone, and specifically, I enjoyed when I kicked the shit out of Lawrence Fishburne. Oh, what's that the other way around? Actually,
How do you like living in Toronto?
I kind of like it, but I would like it even better if it wasn't the winter time always. It's a cold city. It's really cold. I thought I was a Viking. Fucking this is crazy. Crazy. But the interesting thing about it, we've been shooting some of those chill factor days when it's 30 or minus 40. And it's almost been with some, as you said before, some extra lying dead in the snow. And we're like in and out, 20 seconds we're back in the trailer, and they keep lying there. And when you ask them, like, are you okay? But they really want the job, and they all go, yeah, it's great, I love it. And you can see, but you're turning blue, my friend. That's my national skin color. So it's been quite hysterical how cold it's been, right? But luckily we had the trailer.
Hi, I was just wondering if there were any pranks pulled on set. What were some of your favorites and why?
Oh, this is the kind of things you only remember when you're drunk, you know. But when you get the question, you blank, right? But some of the corpses who were not real corpses, they kind of ended up in awkward places sometimes, right? Every time we walked into a scene on a rehearsal, there'll be a dead guy in your chair that's lying there. Right? So that was kind of one of the pranks we always carried around. But I have to get back to that when I'm drunk.
Get some tequila up here. Do you have a favorite scene watching it now, or do you have a favorite Hannibal moment?
There's a lot of it, and again, a lot of the stuff that you're not in yourself, you get surprised when you see it, and also you see what they've done with it. I remember one of the scenes that I specifically loved was when Hugh Dancy, Will Graham, was in jail, and Alana was on the other side, and she leaned in to kiss him, and she morphed into this black kind of ghost, and it evaporated, which is extremely beautiful and sexy. And I thought that was a fantastic moment. But one of my favorite sequences was probably the last episode of the last scene of season 2, where Hannibal cleans up in the house. Everybody, it's a bloody mess. But I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful scene, very, very heartbroken scene, and everybody was acting fantastically. And then there was some cool music, and then it started raining, and it was really Hannibalistic.